All right, folks, Season 1, Episode 9 of Woodshop Talk with Charlie and Russ. Now, I want to start by saying, when I talk about show, or anybody talks about or shows CNC work, we are not trying to say it is the definition of woodworking or that it is better than another tool. It's just another avenue to play with things. I respect everybody's beliefs, but I don't want this to be a debate every time I bring it up. Anybody that knows me know I'm passionate about scroll sawing, and yes, it's not near as hands-on as other tools, but there are certain talents you have to, number one, work the thing. Number two, bring your own designs into them if you so choose. But bottom line, I just don't want this to turn into a debate about whether or not CNC is woodworking, because that's not what the show is about. It's just about the X-Carve and or basic CNC things. That being said, yes, Rick Hutchison, it has started. I will try to get you a link because I know you've done CNC, but as soon as I'm not talking, I will get you a link. Okay, we're going to start with roll call. We're going to start with Mr. Brian Gidney. Go ahead and tell everybody about where you're from and how they can find you on social media.
Sure. I'm Brian Gidney. I'm with Summers Woodworking and the Summers Woodworking Show. You can basically find all my information through my website at summerswoodworking.co. And if you're on YouTube, just look for Summers Woodworking or the Summers Woodworking Show.
Alrighty, thank you. Okay, Rick, I just sent you a link on Facebook. Let me go get back to the Hangout. Next, we have Dave Gatton. Dave, tell everybody where they can find you and anything else you want to throw out there.
You can find me on YouTube under Dave Gatton. You can also find me on Facebook and Twitter. My Facebook page is Dave Gatton Sidewinder CNC, and you can also find things on my website at www.cncsidewinder.com.
Thank you very much, sir. Donald Woodford in the Q&A is saying hello. Thank you for watching, Donald. I appreciate it. We have 8 viewers. Thank you to all of you. Rick Hutchison just joined us, so I'm going to wait a little bit to get to him. I'm going to go next to Richard Muller. Thank you, Dave Gatton, by the way, and Brian. Richard, tell everybody where they can find you and any little thing else you want to talk about. Just don't forget to unmute yourself, please, sir.
If we can unmute the microphone here. There we go. Name's Rich Muller. You can find me on Facebook under that name. It has a sub-channel of Shade.
Find things on my website at www.cncsidewinder.com.
Okay, Rick, if you don't mind muting yourself, that it's doing feedback. Or I just accidentally. Okay, we'll get this figured out. Sorry, Richard. Were you able to get that out before the echo started?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, go ahead and try again.
Okay, so the name's Rich Muller. You can find me on Facebook under that name. I have a sub-channel of Shade Tree CNC, also on Facebook. And you can find me on YouTube for Shade Tree CNC.
Appreciate it very much having you on, Richard. I'm going to run real quickly on over to Sterling Davis. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, I will say now, folks, okay, well, it was nice having you, Sterling. Not everybody on this panel is an expert, and I don't think anybody claims to be, but there are some people on this panel that know a hell of a lot more than I do, and I know others can vouch for me. Chris the Wheeler, Chris Ahern, and Dan Gering and Brexton will say hi. Hello, guys. Sterling, try to get back in if you can. Rick Hutchison, tell everybody about you and where they can find you, and in a long time no see, sir.
Yeah, it has been a while. Rick Hutchison, scrollsaws.com, and yeah, I've got a CNC, been running one since 2002, so had a few years at it.
Awesome. It's definitely good to see you again. He's out of Grimes, Iowa. Did you give everybody your YouTube link? Or are you no longer really active on it?
No, I'm still on there. I think it's just under my name, Rick Hutchison.
10-4, I appreciate it, sir. Moving on over to our esteemed co-host, Russ Clarity. How's the lighting in your shop? How's the lighting in your shop there, Russ?
It's doing good.
All right. I guess tell everybody where they... Yeah.
Well, I guess it's doing good then. Yeah, you can find me on YouTube, on Facebook, and I have a website all under Simply Wooden Creations. And been doing this for a while, but I don't have a CNC.
Dang nabbit. Okay. Okay, I've got so much crap going on. Sorry, guys. Okay, I'm going to start out by saying, now, Dave Gatton and Richard Moeller, I believe, and maybe even Rick Hutchison have built their own, and they are not X-Carve CNCs for the sake of being accurate here. Let me go in order that I introduced everybody. Donna Presley says, wow, I actually made it for a live show again. Very good to have you, Donna. Appreciate it. And the 13 viewers we got. Dave Gatton, well, actually, I'm going to go in order that I did everything out of respect for the order that everybody is on the panel. So, Brian, you got an X-Carve from Inventables. Do you have an outward opinion of that and easel, or software in general?
Put me on the spot, eh? Most overall opinion of the X-Carve, I like it. You know, it's my first experience working with the CNC machine, and my knowledge has grown tremendously since I started putting that thing together. The thing that I wish I could really study up on is speeds for the bits. You know, I'd like to get more information on that. I ordered a 1/4-inch collet, a 1/4-inch bit for my spindle sander. That's the standard 24-volt DC. And I feel that the speeds that they recommend for the X-Carve are for 1/8-inch bits and smaller. Because when it goes to the 1/4-inch bit, it seems like it just, the RPMs seem to like really go too fast for that router.
Yeah, I think I feel safe saying this, but when we get to Dave Gatton and Richard Muller, they could probably very accurately tell us where to find the speed and speed charts. But let me comment first. I joke around to all my friends that I was going to suck up big time to Inventables, but I want to applaud them and mention other things. I applaud Inventables for trying to get these things out to people out of their own pocket, or off of a grant, actually, I believe. But it is definitely a learning curve. I mean, 99% of the people they sent these things to don't know anything about CNC. It is a learning curve. I like the machine a lot more than I do easel, but I know for a fact that they listen to customer feedback. So I appreciate that about the company.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not the only one that's had major frustrations with easel and the X-Carve, but they are trying. They're not all the way there yet, but they are trying. That being said, I'm going to run on over to Dave Gatton. I believe.
Well, I can I finish?
I thought you were. Okay.
I'm just saying, overall, I like the machine. Yeah, it's a learning curve. Inventables, as far as support, they've been really there for you. And anytime something breaks, they replace it, and it's shipped overnight. And as far as easel goes, they're updating it, so yeah, it's kind of buggy right now. I constantly have to change settings. I don't know if it's because I'm jumping between computers logging on that's resetting the settings or whatnot, but yeah, easel's really buggy. I'm learning Universal G-code sender. So that'll be more stationary for the desktop that I'm using. But overall, my experience with Inventables has been great. Yeah, things are going to happen. Product design, I believe some things could have been thought out a little bit better. Their instructions were very clear, but I have found some of their instructions were kind of like backwards. But overall, going from a person that didn't know crap about CNC, my first time experience with it, I'd say I rate it an A+.
I would rate it right at an A. and no offense, Brian, I'm going to go ahead and move
Okay.
on down, but
I'm done now.
I would rate it an A. Again, I know that their intentions are good, but there are things that need to be worked out. But that's Inventables forums is another place to go. Even people that don't have the X-Carve are discussing, and they help people. Tommy G is somebody who's helped me quite a bit, and he's unable to get on because his internet isn't working yet. But I appreciate you watching Tommy Gonzalez, that is. And no, I haven't tried to open up YouTube chat yet, Russell. If you want to cover that, sir. I'm going to run on over to Dave Gatton. If I am correct, you built your own, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Feel free to say anything you want to about it, and if you have an opinion on Inventables and easel and all that, you're free to say it. We just got to keep it family friendly.
Well, I would like to say something about Inventables. Obviously, I don't have one of their machines. I don't really have any reason to purchase one because I already have a nice CNC machine that I use. But I would like to say that I just think it's really a cool deal that they're coming out and basically, from what I can understand, giving away a lot of these machines to people who probably otherwise wouldn't even get one or think about putting one in their shop.
Absolutely.
So, I do think that's a pretty awesome thing that they're doing that. I kind of wish I had one, just because when you're looking on Facebook and things, there's so many X-Carves out there now, and there's so many people having issues with this or that, and I feel kind of helpless because I can't really offer any suggestions or anything because I don't know anything about that machine other than what I've seen people do the videos about. I will say this though, and probably Richard and probably agree with me, I guess. I could tell when I first started watching those things, the way they have those little tiny belts, I could kind of anticipate some of the issues that the people were going to have with the things slipping and things like that. I don't necessarily think belt drive is a bad thing. I just think they look awful small to me, and I understand they're trying to make everything light and compact so they can keep shipping down and all that. I understand all that, but when you're talking about CNC, sometimes weight is your friend. Weight and mass, and rigidity, things like that. So, but I think as a starter machine, or introductory machine, whatever you want to call it, I think Inventables has got a really neat deal there, and I salute them for putting as many of them out there as they have. I would love, like I said, I would love to have one myself, just to be able to test drive and kick the tires, so to speak. And then be able to maybe offer help to other people that have one.
I appreciate that, Dave. I think cost effectiveness was part of the reason of their material choices, like you say, belts versus the threaded rods and vice versa. But I think as a company, they're learning and growing just as we are. But there's certain things they could have waited to release and. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna have bugs in anything, I guess. Just like when they release a new operating system or whatever the heck you call those things, there's gonna have bugs in it. You work them out. They're just doing theirs publicly, and it's definitely caused a few people suicidal tendencies or murderous tendencies. That's most definite. But I appreciate your feedback, Dave, and Richard Muller.
Before you do that, Charles, I can't open up the YouTube chat because you're running the show, but if you'll open up the YouTube chat, there's a lot of people wanting to chat over there, and I can read the questions or keep monitoring. I've got the time to keep monitoring it over here.
Okay, if you do the Q&A, I'll do the YouTube if I can get back over to that link.
Okay.
Thank you, Russ.
So far, nobody's on the Q&A.
Nobody's on the Q&A, so.
Brian, you're not able to access the comments on the whatchamacallit? On the YouTube.
I haven't been over there.
I can access the comments. I'm talking about the actual live chat that you can have going on YouTube at the same time.
Okay, I'll do that as soon as I can get both my brain cells to work together. But Richard Muller, as soon as he gets to talking, I'll investigate. Richard, are you with us?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, I'm just seeing your profile picture. I don't know if it's just me or anybody else, but you want to throw out your opinion and how yours is built and how you feel about everything regarding Inventables, X-Carve, or just CNC in general. Just feel free to talk about whatever you'd like.
Well, I built my CNC I guess it's almost a year and a half, 2 years ago. And at that time, the only available control software that was available was Mach 3. And so the mere fact that Shapeoko came out and they had their small CNC, and if you go back and dig into the story of the history of the Shapeoko and the gentleman that actually put it out as kind of a hobby machine for the guys that wanted a CNC and couldn't afford one, so he put one together. He ultimately went to work for Inventables, started selling the Shapeokos. When the Shapeoko 3 came out, all of a sudden you'll notice that all of the information for Shapeoko disappeared off the Inventables website. And there's still a Shapeoko website, and all the wikis and information of that came with that are still on their website at the same time that the X-Carve came out. And if you dig into it a little bit deeper, you'll find that the Shapeoko more or less was picked up by a company down there in Southern California called Carbide 3D, and they're still selling the machines. They're also selling a machine that's very similar to the X-Carve or the Carvey machine as well. Now, as far as my opinion on the X-Carve, I think it's a great machine. From the standpoint that most people that would consider buying a CNC could actually get involved with that. The other thing is I think Easel is probably a really tremendously good program for the same people that are getting into CNC that don't know anything about it. However, when Shapeoko was out there, they were strongly behind the universal G-code senders. They were strongly behind CAM programs such as CAMBAM and a few others out there for generating their G-code. And they didn't talk too much about, I guess it's the tool chain of being able to design your work, generate G-code, and then end up sending it off to your machine. I've tried Easel. I can't run Easel because I don't have a G-code sender, but you can use their program and then go to their advanced save or advanced settings and save their G-code, and then I can simply run that on my Mach 3, which it loads and runs just fine. Yeah, exactly. So the advantage to Mach 3 is that I can expand my machine to 5 and 6 axes. I've got plans to build a lathe for mine so I can do turning, whereas the universal G-code sender is only 3 axis, and it will never ever run a 4th axis. The only time that you'll be able to run a 4th axis is you'll have to upgrade to like a tiny G rather than the G shield. So at some point in time, you're going to have to upgrade your equipment. So for me, if you're going to upgrade, I would bite the bullet and go Mach 3 because that's what the rest of the industry is running.
Is that compatible necessarily, or do you think it would have to work out some bugs?
Well, Mach 3's been around for years. It's what all your industrial machines run.
I tried Mach 3 and I couldn't get it to load on Windows 10 or Windows 7.
It won't. It's an XP only
Yep.
software.
Now
Although
I know they got
Mach
the
4,
Mach 4.
I think, is designed to run that.
Yeah.
I have it on my Windows 7 machine.
It will run. I think it will run 7, but 8 and 10 I think are completely out of the picture. Hi, I'm Dave Solstrom. I'm a CNC machinist and the proud owner of an X-Carve that is still in pieces.
Congratulations, David.
Appreciate you being on, David. Do you have any social media you want to share with people?
No, I don't do social media. I'm kind of a hermit when it comes to social media.
I do have a question. When you said you used to have it, you're the proud owner of an X-Carve still in pieces. Why is it still in pieces?
Because if you follow the X-Carve forums, and I have started a David Solstrom mods and build thread. You can see some of the things that I'm doing to my my machine. My machine is not a standard machine by any stretch of the imagination. It's been lengthened out to 1800 millimeter. It's been raised an additional 50 millimeter. The z-axis will be reversed, and I'll be able to use the all 4.3 inches of height that I've got underneath the carriage. The gantry will have a T-spline sandwich between the two maker slides. I'm also in the process of making my own V-wheels, because every wheel that I got from Inventables that I measured was under 90 degrees by a significant amount, and so
Wow.
that's why it's still in pieces.
So basically, you took the basic version and you're going to just upgrade it and make it better.
Yeah, I refer to it as Mega Carve.
Mega Carve.
See, my thing is I'm such a newbie to this stuff that I don't know what can work and what can't, so I'd be afraid to make any mods to it. And I know, good timing, Tommy G just joined us. Hopefully his internet's cooperating, but he has helped me out quite a bit when I was ready to throw this thing in the ocean. No offense, Inventables, I'm sorry, but I'm not the smartest feller in the world. But Tommy, will you want to introduce yourself and then just go ahead and go right into your opinion on the X-Carve and Inventables and blah, blah, blah? Are you with it?
I think he stepped away.
Okay, Tommy, I'll come back to you. Rick Hutchison, would you like to, I know you don't have the X-Carve, but would you like to talk about CNC in general, or what learning curve you had, what you have?
All right, mine is a machine built by a guy out of Kansas City. It was kind of a experimental machine. He built all the boards and power supply and the whole 9 yards for it. He built the whole machine from scratch. He was an electronic engineer. As far as the program, I do all my drawings in Corel Draw, save them as a DXF file, and then I take them over into a program called CNC, and I can convert them to G-code over there and get my tool paths and offsets and run the router from that.
The program you said was called Desk CNC?
Desk CNC.
Okay.
And I don't know whether it's compatible with other things or not. I've talked to the guy who wrote it out in New York, but he was kind of working with the guy that built the machine. So whether it was a program specifically designed for this one machine, I don't know.
What control software are you using, Rick?
Desk CNC.
Oh, Desk CNC. Okay, it's not running Mach 3 or Linux or any of the stuff that. Okay.
No, it was a program that a guy out of California or New York wrote. I've got a website for him. I'll look it up here in a second and post it over here.
I'd like to apologize to the viewers. I have looked all over YouTube. I cannot find the YouTube chat going anywhere. I've gone into Video Manager. I've gone to my profile on there. I can't find it anywhere. Tommy G.
We'll have to learn more about that, because I know other people have used it, and I think the Maritime show has used it, so we'll have to look into that.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed that I can't find it, but if y'all can find a way to get the questions into the Q&A section, I will be more than happy to have somebody answer them. But Tommy G says, Charles, I'm going to try this. I'm going to have to turn bandwidth all the way down when I'm talking, and video is going to turn off, but hopefully my voice won't break up. If you think that'll work, Tommy, go for it. But in the meantime, I want to ask, this is between Richard, David, and Dave, and maybe even Rick, but I think these other three guys are seasoned veterans of this stuff. But what bits serve what purpose? In other words, I found out the hard way, one of the spiral, I don't know if it was an upcut or downcut, but it was terrible for the edges of the project. Can you say what bits are best for what bits are best for what kind of jobs?
Could I interject here?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to interject here. One of the biggest problems that newbies in CNC have is feed speeds, depth of cut, width of cut, and those parameters. And so it's very difficult to say, well, if you're going to do this, that you need to use this tool bit, or if you're going to use this, you need this tool bit. One of the programs that I preach and preach and preach is called G-Wizard. It's a feed and speed calculator with a whole bunch of other stuff in it that even a newbie working primarily in wood, I think, can benefit from. You know, but so 3D, but I'll shut up.
You don't have to shut up, but do you have okay, not necessarily an in-stone system, but do you have preferences when it comes to certain bits for certain parts of the project or types of projects?
Okay. If one is doing a 2D profile, all right, so you're just you've made a sign and now you want to cut the outside of it, you know, just shape and everything else, then that would typically be an end mill, and with the right feeds and speeds and depth of cut, so that you can go around the part. If your program will allow it, so you can put tabs in at strategic places, so that as the tool comes, it lifts and goes over the top of that tab and then starts cutting again. So when everything's finished, the part is still attached to the parent material, and you can take a wood chisel or a fine saw and take it off, sand those tabs down, and have a finished product.
And for
If you're doing, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when you say end mill, does end mill automatically by default mean a flat bottom to the bit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All right.
We have ball mills, we
you're-
have all kinds of crap. Go ahead.
Yeah. If you're doing 3D contouring work, then generally speaking, you use a ball end mill, all right, so that it will cut on its side as it comes up and side as it goes down, and you can carve the Mona Lisa if you want in relief. If you're using real thin stock, a lot of people like a down cutting end mill, that instead of lifting the material off of the work surface, the helix on it pushes the material down onto your work surface and everything else. There's also conventional machining where you're starting. How do I? Conventional machining. If you're going left to right, all right, the tool is traveling in a counterclockwise direction as looking down on it. So that's conventional. If you come from right to left on that same side, then you're doing what's called climb milling, and you start with a big chunk and end with a little chunk. So there's conventional milling and Klein milling, and there's a real steep learning curve for the newbie.
Thank you, David. I really appreciate all that detailed information. I wanted to say another thing. I love you, Inventables, but y'all, I really want y'all to be more competitive on your pricing of bits, because there are much cheaper options out there for the same quality or higher. And I mean no disrespect, it's just the truth. Eugene Satterfield says, what kind of price can one expect for a beginning machine? And to me, an X-Carve is probably a beginning machine, but if anybody wants to chime in on that, then just start talking. Richard, I haven't been to you in a while. Do you have any agreeing or disagreeing on what David just said, and anything you'd like to add as well as that question?
Well, some time ago, I had designed and built mine, and I spent about $1,800 to build it. Now, I can put a full 4x8 sheet of plywood up on my machine and be able to reach all four corners.
Sweet.
I then in turn built a 4x4 machine based upon the same learning curve, shall I say, or the mistakes that I made in building mine. Now, if you go to Facebook and you go to Shade Tree, search for Shade Tree CNC, I posted free plans up there, and one of the photos of that is a bill of materials, and it gives you all the places of where to buy steel V bearings and chains and all of the components. There's a complete bill of materials, and if you add up that bill of materials for a 4x4 machine, it still comes out to about $1,300.
Wow.
So I look at the X-Carve as being right at that same price point, and for the standpoint of you're making machine completely out of wood and steel and having to source all of these components, you'd be better off to buy the X-Carve. Now, if you're looking at a machine to do something other than hobby work, then you're right. You probably should go to like Laguna Tools or something like that and spend $30,000 and buy a really, really expensive machine that'll do everything you want.
I'll check my change jars. Do you have any areas that you differed in opinion on the bits when David was talking about them? As to what they're best for?
I go to Harbor.
Yeah, your audio
Up spiral bits. They're like $9, $10 for a package of 3.
Did you say Harbor Freight? Because you broke up when you were answering.
Yep. Harbor Freight. When they get dull, I throw them away.
Okay. Because I know Rick Hutchinson has an opinion on Harbor Freight, but go ahead.
You know, the real trick is with a constant speed router, you don't have much choice in changing the RPM.
Yeah.
But I went to Harbor Freight and I bought their router speed control, so I can actually slow my router down considerably. I've actually got a standard drill chuck that I put up in mine so that I can put any size drill bit in, so that I can go around my project and actually drill all pilot holes first.
That's a very good idea. Richard, I don't mean to cut you off on it just for the sake of dividing it all up. I know I personally use a DeWalt 611. It's no secret that the X-Carve was having major issues. 3 different shipments of spindles were just crap. So I switched to the DeWalt 611 trim router, and I love it. It cuts much faster than the stock spindles are. But Tommy G, I want to go to you. Number 1, so you can introduce yourself. Number 2, because you have a way to operate the DeWalt without having to walk up and turn it on. You said something to do with a relay or something, but I'll let you introduce yourself and jump in on any topic you've heard discussed so far.
All right, yeah, my name is Tommy G. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, everything under Tommy G Workshop. Hopefully I'm not breaking up. You guys can hear me okay?
Yeah, you're doing fine audio-wise. It went a little echoey, but it's definitely better than it has been.
Okay. And I've also just opened up a website www.wick.tommygworkshop.
Yeah.
Just to kind of go back a little bit about the guys. I think, I mean, if people just get into it, Inventables, the 500 millimeters is only like $800. So I mean, that's a good way to get into it.
I love when people use the term only, because something like that is like winning the lottery.
Yeah, I say only, but I say only because I mean CNCs can get super expensive. So $800 is only for CNC. So
yeah. As a comparison, my Tormach 770, I've got over $12,000 invested in it. So
holy monkey.
just a comparison.
Really expensive.
I don't even have that much invested in my truck. Chris Ahern is asking, how computer savvy should one be to use an X-Carve or CNC type machine? And I would guess pretty darn savvy, but I'll let you all answer that.
You've got to have some knowledge of, I mean, computer and design and that kind of thing a little bit. But I mean, it's not like you have a program like that. And it all depends on what kind of programs you're using. I mean, easels, way friendly, but a little bit hard to get the project out. And there's programs like I usually program, and it's a little bit hard, so much.
Something's goofy going on there.
Yeah, Tommy, I'm sorry. He's been having internet issues. Tommy, I'm sorry, but you're breaking up quite a bit. I know you're trying to help, and I appreciate it. There are guys out there like Tommy, and I'm pretty sure Richard and David as well, and David and Dave, that are real good with answering any CNC questions you have, or they can direct you to charts and websites and stuff. But I won't even pretend to know what the heck I'm doing when it comes to programs. I mean, it is definitely a learning curve for that. And I just, for some reason, completely froze up on questions. Does anybody else have any preferences on what bits? Oh, I'll go to you, Dave. Do you have any preferences on, no problem, Tommy, preferences on what bits do what projects? I know some of it's got to be universal, because like when I found out the hard way about the spiral bit was making the edges of my product really fuzzy, so I know some things you just can't do with certain bits.
Yeah, I typically like to use those round, sharp ones. That's the kind of bits I use. No, seriously, to me, I found that buying router bits is kind of like most everything else. You know, you kind of get what you pay for. So sometimes it's hard to get on Amazon and spend, you know, $25 for a bit, or you know, a single bit. But you know, I found that usually when you spend that kind of money on it, it's going to last a long time. It's going to be, you know, stay sharp, and it's you know, I just found it better. You know, of course, there's nothing wrong with buying the other ones and using them up and throwing them away if you have to. But I like to spend the money on the bits and you know, put them in my library. I use V-Carve Pro, so you know, once I buy a tool, I put it in my library, and hopefully it'll stay sharp for a while.
I appreciate it, Dave. The bit library on V-Carve Pro, there's a really, I wish I had the guy's name memorized, but there's a video out there. The guy talks about how to put the CNC bits into your library on V-Carve Pro. And Tommy tried to babysit me about V-Carve Pro, about how to use it. I haven't tried it yet because I'm scared to death. But I want to publicly thank Tommy for that. He's a very patient guy trying to help me figure out what the heck I'm doing. But I just went blank. I'm being my typical Charlie.
You know, from an outsider looking in, since I don't have one, everything that I have heard tonight
scares you.
Taught me out of getting one. First off, you got to put the darn thing together, okay? That right there seems to be an issue. Second, when you get it put together, the piece of crap they send you for the router or whatever you want to call it, the spindle, is not worth the flip. So you're going to end up getting another one of those, and that like a Bosch or some other kind of router, let's call it. So there's another X that I'm marking on the spot that I don't like this thing. And then now you're telling me all the software that you use is a hassle, and Brian was saying you can't do this or can't do that. So, I mean, for me, listening to all y'all guys talk, I'm not, unless I had real need for one of those, I wouldn't waste my money on the damn.
Well, I respect that 100%, and it's good to have a quote-unquote outsider's opinion, because number one, the software easel is the only one that's buggy. No offense, but it's the truth. So
that's what I'm saying. Everything that y'all have talked about tonight is just like totally a turnoff for me. It's like, why would I want to spend $1,200 for something that as a hobby, and then I'm going to have all these problems with it and issues with it and everything else? I mean, I don't know. To me, it's a waste of money, a waste of time.
Well, not all CNCs are like that, Russ.
Well, I agree. Now, you're right. The ones of y'all that have built yours, like,
Somebody's got their hand up.
Yeah, like Rick,
wants to talk.
Like Rick and Richard and David and Dave, all y'all that have kind of like built yours and not really using the CNC or the X-Carve or whatever. You see, now those, it seems like because of the fact that you built it, you understand actually how it works, why it does this and why it does that. You've already experienced the problems that, I mean, you don't have the problem that seems like that everybody else is having with the X-Carve. So yeah, I thought that y'all, if I was going to get one, I would hire one of y'all guys to build me one and ship it to me and pay you rather than buy the X-Carve.
Russ, if you're ever near the Atlanta area, stop by my shop, and in 5 minutes I can have you running mine. I guarantee.
See what I'm saying? I would rather send my money to him, to Dave, and just say, here, build me one and tell me how much you want, and then we'll figure out the shipping, and then I go from there.
Okay, as far as people raising their hands, whenever I'm doing the show, the thumbnails are frozen, so I can't see people raising their hands. So if you want to say something, unmute yourself, say your name, and I'll put the camera on you, because I don't want to leave anybody out here. Who was raising their hand?
I think it was Rick Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rick.
Okay, as far as bits, you guys are talking about buying standard router bits. See, I guess for mine, I buy solid carbide bits from Precise Cut. And like for cutting 1/8-inch Baltic birch in one pass, I use a 1/32 inch diameter bit. And for 1/4 inch, I can do a full cut with a 1/16 inch bit. The largest bits I use them are 1/8 inch. So I guess I don't know, what bits are you guys buying? Are you buying great big things, or you buying 1/4 inch shanks or 1/8 inch?
I can only speak for me, but I'm using Inventables bits so far. Go ahead, Rick. I'm sorry you broke up. I thought you were done.
No, go ahead. I'm using 1/8 inch shank, but I guess I was wondering what you guys are using and what the X-Carve will do. But I can set my ramp speed and my feed rate too. So like for cutting 1/8 inch Baltic birch, I can use a ramp speed of 10 and a feed rate of 30 inches a minute, and cut 1/8 inch Baltic birch with a 1/32 inch bit all in one pass.
Wow.
What spindle speed?
I'm just running a Porter cable trim router at full speed.
Yeah.
Okay, so 27th hour, thereabouts.
Yeah, I can speak for the DeWalt 611. That is 27,000 RPM full speed.
Yeah.
But it does have adjustable speed, 1 to 6, 6 being all the way up. Dan Ingerbretson in the Q&A section says, I'm with you, Russ. I think I'll wait until they get the bugs out, more friendly software, and the prices go way down.
Yeah, I have to be sincere about it, because I had thought about buying one just as a hobby to have, and I've mentioned this before to other people. My use for one would be like making boxes, and then in being able to do intricate carvings on the top of the box. For instance, I'm going to build a box for my mother's Bible, and I would like to do something really special on engraving and carving on top of that box. So I could see now that would be, but I'm not paying $1,200 for a damn machine that I got to put together and then have all these bugs to try to carve something on for my mother's Bible. So it just, to me, I applaud Rick and all those guys that have made those, or David, whoever, Dave and David have made theirs. I applaud them for being able to make their own, because to me, if I was to, once again, that's the way to go.
Yeah, I think it's definitely knowledge and the passion for it. That being said, Chris Ahern says the more I listen to this chat, the more I'd rather spend cash on other equipment. Seems to be a tool that you always have to spend money on. And my opinion on that, thank you, Dave, Chris, by the way. My opinion on that is that if you have a passion for something, you don't mind spending the money if you have it. That's what I do on scroll sawing. Now, people may have noticed on my channel that I'm doing CNC work. It's because I'm playing with it and filming the process. But I've had so many people say that's not woodworking. Well, I'm not here to debate that because it is a tool. It's a lot less hands-on. So yeah, it's not. I don't know. There's so many people that have so many sides of that issue. But why don't I go to Dave Gatton on this? And Dave, do you have a response to those people that tell you it's not woodworking? And I'm not trying to say it is woodworking. I'm just saying, what do you tell people?
I've been hearing that for a long time, Charles, because and that's part of the reason why I did that video series last year showing people how to build a CNC, because I would do a YouTube video and maybe use my CNC to do part or all of the project, and I would always get comments in that video, and they say, "Oh yeah, that's easy for you. You got a CNC." And so finally, you know, it kind of got to me after a while getting all those comments, and I just kind of at the end of one of my videos, I said, okay, anybody that wants to learn how to build a CNC, you know, leave a comment down here, and if I get enough comments, I'll build one and show you how. So, you know, I got an overwhelming response to that and just started doing that little video series, making that one out of, you know, birch plywood, and then offered up the free plans, and you know, I don't really care if people think it's woodworking or not. You know, I'm not about to get rid of my CNC anytime soon. I think it's a great addition to the shop. Just like Russ said, if you want to engrave something or do an inlay or something, it's you know, great for that. And I look at it as just a you know, just another tool in my shop. I do like it because and I say this all the time in my videos, I kind of think of it as kind of having a helper in my shop, because I can set something up on the CNC and get it started, and then I'm over on a table saw or bandsaw or sanding or doing something else. I don't sit there and watch mine. You know, I've been doing it a long time, so I'm all over sitting there watching it. I'd rather be doing something else. So it's kind of like another set of hands getting something else done while I'm doing something else.
Yeah, the only thing I have against CNC is those who will use it to claim it's hand done. You know, like, you know what I mean. You know, your standard woodworking tool.
Sure, and I'll agree with that. I don't think anybody should use a CNC and then go to a craft show and try to say it's all handcrafted stuff, because it's not really. But just to say that you know, if you make something on a CNC that it's not woodworking, I really don't care whether they say that about me or not.
I hear you. I don't know. It's going to be an ongoing debate. I don't claim that it's woodworking. It's a tool to create with. Yes, it's less hands-on. I don't know how else I can say it, but
well, I don't think you could probably get any woodworker, you know, somebody that has a nice shop with a lot of tools. I doubt very seriously if you could get them to get rid of their table saw, their bandsaw, anything that's powered by electricity or by battery, and say, okay, now you're a real woodworker. You know.
Oh yeah, even though I've been the devil's advocate tonight about the machine, there's no doubt in my mind that they're a great tool, a great asset, and it is woodworking. I don't give a flip what anybody says, because you can do some great, wonderful things with those. And so, as far as what I'm saying, no, there's no doubt in my mind that it's a tool that can be put into a lot of people's wood shops, and it can do great things. But my point is about, I'm not going to spend that much money with all the problems that I see everybody's having with them. I'll wait and buy one of yours, Dave. I'll have you build me one, or you know what I'm saying, or do something like that before I'd waste my money, $1,200 on the X-Carve.
Well, and you don't have to spend $1,200. I mean,
I understand.
One can start out with a 500. You don't have to start out with a 1,000 by 1,000. All right, yeah. And there's nothing that says that you have to buy their electronics, their spindle. You know, you can get the basic structure, which is what I did. I got the basic structure, and of course now I'm changing that basic structure quite a bit. But that's just because of my machinist background and my prior CNC background. So, you know, there's really not that many issues with the X-Carve. I don't think it's less than meets the eye.
Would any of you that don't do social media be willing to say your email address for those that may want to email you with questions?
No, I'll type it into the chat here.
Okay, do you mind if I read it out loud once you put it in there?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
I know Richard Muller is on YouTube and Facebook, so he's in as well. One of y'all said Charles. I don't know which one of y'all said that. Like you wanted to say something. Did somebody want to say something?
I think that was Richard that wanted to say something, if I'm not mistaken. Wasn't Richard?
Yep, I did.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry. Go ahead, Richard.
Have any of you guys heard of openbuild.com?
I haven't.
Yeah, I've bought some stuff from them.
If you go to their website, they now have a CNC bundle to where you can buy a CNC for like under $500. It's not as big as the X-Carve, but it's a good starting point. They recommend a universal G code, and for most of the problems that I've heard with people with X-Carves is that they try to go from easel to running somebody else's code, and like doesn't matter what program it is, it's generating real G code, and they can't figure out how to import it into easel.
Yeah.
And easel doesn't import G code, so they have to figure out the settings and all the rest of the stuff for a universal G code sender, and it's that I think is the largest learning curve for people that have bought an X-Carve and then wants to advance to more sophisticated software.
Yeah, Tommy G brings up a very good point. He said most problem with X-Carve is it's mostly people that are new to CNC, and that is very true.
I was going to say something like that, but I was trying to be nice here.
Oh man, anybody that knows me and done any hangouts with me, they know, man. I'm slowly getting there, but we have.
Yeah, but when you say that, it's they don't understand CNC, and I realize that. And I'll give you a comparison. As much as woodworking as I've done throughout the years, I have never done lathe work. And here in the last couple of years, a friend of mine gave me an older lathe, and I started playing around with lathe work. But I mean, with a lathe, you buy the tools, you put the tool to the wood. It's a learning curve of how to use a lathe. But everything that I'm hearing about y'all's guys and about this X-Carve is totally like a turnoff. It's like the learning curve is a lot greater because there's so many more things that you're having to. There's depth of cut. There's spindle speed. There's what type of bit to use. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on, and then trying to get how many passes does it make. So yeah, I would totally agree that it's people don't understand CNC, and that's why they're having problems.
10-4. Thank you, Russ.
I would agree with that.
Here's one thing for me. This is sort of off topic. This goes back to those people that say, well, where's all the passion, this and that. Okay, anybody that knows me knows it's no secret that I'm broke, and I'm not promoting that. I'm just saying I could be doing a very detailed portrait over here on the scroll saw that I'm very passionate about. But while I'm doing that, I could be seeing a bunch of little piddly keychains I could sell for $1 a piece. Sell 1,000 things at $1. That's $1,000. I need the income, so that's one benefit if you are willing to go through all the crap. But we have 2 minutes left, or 1 minute left, so I'm going to go ahead and read Richard Muller's email address and David Solstrom's, and I'll spell both of them. Richard Muller is Richard, M-O-L-L-E-R, and I will say this slowly so people can write it down, or you can just rewatch the video. His email is shadetreecnc@gmail.com. David Solstrom, his last name is spelled SOHLSTROM. He does not have social media, so the only way to reach him is through email. His email address is dms0OHL@tds.net. TDS as in Tom,
David Soul.
David, Sam.
Sam.
I was trying to think of non-dirty words too. That's how I roll. I'm sorry for speaking of dirty words. Any of y'all gets the blooper reel of mine on my channel?
Charles, is there any compelling reason that when we get to 6:30 or 8:30, whatever local time it is, that we discontinue this subject,
Well,
or can we?
That's a very good question, because we tried to keep it at an hour, but being that we have such a, I'm going to get thumbs down. It happens anyway. But you know what? Let's just continue talking about it. If y'all have something to say, say it. I have no problem with that at all.
Yeah.
And I don't say that with attitude, but I generally try to keep it at an hour per viewership. But people might be learning something.
Well, if you want, you can shut off the live feed and all. But anybody, I'm willing to sit here and try and answer Russ's questions about the difficulties that can be involved with getting into to CNC and the apparent steep learning curve that is there, and it is a fairly steep learning curve, but it's one, as you climb it, it starts out almost vertical, all right. But as you climb it, it starts laying down and laying down and laying down and laying down, and pretty soon it's almost horizontal. How long does that take? I guess it depends on some of your background and what you'd like to do with the machine. Do you really want, if you're real intent on getting into sign carving and selling signs to people and everything else, something that's going to give you an income stream, then you're going to be more intense on learning things. If you're just doing it to make little widgets and little boxes and stuff for the wife and kids and everything else, whole different motivational thing.
Yeah,
so.
I appreciate it, David. For being at the usual end of the show, we have 21 viewers, so I'm going to leave it up to the viewers. Do y'all have any questions? Do you want the show to continue? I mean, Eugene Satterfield wants to know, can you start small and add on later? And I would say most definitely yes, but I'll let y'all answer that. And Richard is nodding his head. Yeah, you could start with the basics and go on up to the super duper double decker. Richard, did you have any comments? Rick, Richard, David, Rick, anybody want to? Oh, I meant to tell you that Tommy G said he'd be willing to help anybody that might need help, and he is on Facebook or YouTube. He goes by Tommy G Workshop, and email us tommygworkshop@gmail.com. Thank you for that, Tommy. But I'm gonna leave it up to the viewers if they want to keep the show going, because for such a debatable topic, as some would say, we have 22 viewers. So somebody's liking something, or they're getting ammo to go on later.
I think I see a lot of the problem that people are having with the X-Carve is because to me, I'm listening to y'all talk. This is the first time I think that computers and woodworking have actually merged into doing something in one. In other words, you're taking drawings and stuff on a computer and actually sending it to the machine, and the machine's actually performing for you whatever you want it to do. So I can see that, I mean, that being an extra learning curve, because you take a lot of older woodworkers. I just happen to be very computer savvy. But you take a lot of older woodworkers in the shop that are not very computer savvy, they're going to be lost trying to use the CNC. I mean, so you've taken computers, you've taken a woodworking tool, you combine the two, and now it's twice as hard to learn as what it would have been before.
Yeah, now see, for me, this is apples and oranges as far as what I say, but you got CNC and you got a lathe. I don't know a dang thing about a lathe, so it'll be a learning curve for me. That being said, lathe is obviously hands-on, you know, tools-on, whatever you want to call it. But there are going to be those that say the machine is doing the work for you, and yes, to a degree it is. But you put in what it goes in there. I am not saying, I will never say that a CNC is the go-to tool for woodworking, because it's just another avenue, another option. Some people are very passionate about it. I feel safe in assuming that Richard, Dave, and David love their CNCs.
Oh yeah.
Oh, definitely. Wouldn't live without it.
I would, if I had one, it would. My biggest thing would be, I think, I can already see what I would want to do with it. Would be, I love to carve, but I'm not good at it. But yet I can use a computer to draw intricate details, like with Corel Draw. If I could take that, yeah. So if I could take that and turn it into a CNC machine and have it carve it for me, then I would be tickled to death. That's what I would use it.
And that was such a perfect example, Russ, because I do my designs on paper. You do yours in Corel Draw. That is using a computer. Some people could argue that. I mean, obviously, the computer isn't making the thing for you. But I mean, yeah, that was a perfect example.
Right. And that's what I said. That's what I would use mine for. Charles wants to use it to make stuff that in order to sell, and I can understand that. There's a reason behind everybody what they would want to do with one. But like I said, unless it changes a lot, I'm gonna wait a while.
Yeah, I'll be the first to say, if it hadn't been for Inventables sending me one, I would not be able to afford one. I mean, I believe one of the three guys I keep mentioning told me, I believe it was Richard, said that you can get parts for relatively cheap. Like Richard, I believe it was you talking about trying to make your own CNC. You can get the Arduino and the G Shield. I think you were talking about those things being very cheap on Amazon or eBay or something like that.
Yeah.
I'd like to go down the line real quick, and Charles, you can ask him. Like, start off with Rick Hutchinson and ask him, what do you use your CNC machine for?
Yeah, Rick, what do you use your CNC machine for?
I'd like to know what each person actually uses theirs for. I mean,
that's a good point.
Well, right now, one of the main things I use it for is cutting carburetor gaskets for old carburetors. I've got a buddy that rebuilds like 1934 John Deere tractor carburetors and stuff, and he can't get gasket kits anymore. So he brings the carburetor out, I throw it on the scanner, scan it, and then trace a gasket, and then we use a vacuum table on the CNC and put gasket material down and actually cut the gaskets for the carburetors. Other than that, I do some name tags, pins and stuff. I use a lot of the plastic that once you cut through the red on the plastic, it leaves white. You see a lot of the signs around like that. And just playing on some other things. I do all just 2D stuff, you know, cutting out flat work or doing like the signs and stuff. Yeah. It's just something to play with once in a while. It's like I can go to the lathe, or I can go to the scroll saw, or I can go to the CNC, or I've got a vinyl sign cutter I can play with. So I just got to have lots of things to play with.
Rick has a lot of toys. That's another good point. I think a CNC is good for if it's tuned in and calibrated correctly, and you know what you're doing. There are certain things you have to be very precise on. Precision is key. And I mean, yes, if you're a seasoned tool user of a certain kind of tool, you might be able to get precision with it. But you know, anytime, like on a scroll saw, I've been doing it since 1997. But if I had to have exact measurements, my hands move a little bit. So I'm going to use something. If it's a precision part that makes a big difference, by God, I'm going to go with it. Go ahead, Richard Muller.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm kind of one that, as an example, would use a CNC for things that I couldn't do in my shop with any of the other tools. As an example, I have one of these small Ryobi 10-inch bandsaws, and it has a very small throat. And if I get a board that's 24 inches square, I can't get to the middle of it. So a CNC works well for that. Simple things like if I wanted to refinish a table, and all I wanted to do is just skim the top of the table. Well, it's too wide, too long, too narrow, or not narrow enough to run through my wood planer. But I can throw a 2-inch diameter bit in my CNC, level the table out the best I can on my table, and fly cut the entire tabletop.
Exactly. Now another example. I'm sorry, Richard. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say real quickly. Yes, I'm a scroll sawyer, but one difference. Yes, it took. This might have been because I was cautious about depth per pass because I was breaking so many 1/16 bits. But it took 7.5 hours to cut a portrait of Jesus about 20 by 16. But I could have done it on a scroll saw in 2 hours or less. That's just a difference. But that was me being cautious on the X-Carve. But I am going to go ahead and wind it down because we're not getting a lot of activity in the Q&A. But Dan Ingebretson says the problem I have with the X-Carve is I don't have one.
Join the club, Dan.
Write a check. Write a check.
Price check. Does anybody have anything they want to throw in before we shut her down?
I got a few things. One thing I'd like to say for we got it over on YouTube. You guys were hi. They're glad you're here. Tommy G put on our YouTube thing that if anybody needs any help, contact him. Thanks, Tommy. Mike Brown said, buy Dave's plans and build your own. I did it, and it's really simple. So I guess he's talking about Dave on the panel.
I didn't hear him talk about plans. I heard Richard Muller refer to Shade Tree CNC on Facebook. David, did you mention where you had plans, David?
No, I don't have plans.
Maybe he meant Richard Muller. Dave, do you have plans, or did he mean Richard?
Yeah, I have. On the little plywood CNC I did the video series on last year, I offered the plans up for free. So that's evidently what he's talking about. I finished that video series, I think it was in the end of March in 2014, and I've had requests for about 4,000 sets of plans.
Good Lord.
Wow. Well, here, Mike Brown has got your plans, build it, and he said he likes it. So.
Awesome. Dave, can you tell us verbally what the link is to find those plans, or put it in the comment section?
Well, if they go to my website, www.cncsidewinder.com, there's a page where you can request the plans, and that way I have their information, their email, and everything, and I just email them to them.
CNCsidewinder.com. His name is Dave Gatton. We thank you, Dave Gatton, for being here. Thank you, David. I forgot your last name. Forgive me.
Salstrom.
Richard Muller, Rick Hutchison, Russell Clarity, Tommy G, and little old me, Charles Deering. We appreciate you watching. I'm sorry if you don't like CNCing. It's not all we do, but some of us are passionate about it. But either way, just keep the sawdust flying, all right?